Hey guys, how's it going? Any Pride here from Milk and Cookie Total War, bringing you some more Call of Warhammer beginning of the end times content. This time I am playing as Bretonnia in a massive 3v3. You don't get to see those very often on this mod. It can be kind of hard to organize games sometimes, but this was a really awesome battle. Lots of fun, absolutely crazy scale, lots of crazy stuff going on. So I am playing as Bretonnia, and my allies are the Dark Elves and the Dogs of War. And across from us, we have the High Elves, the Vampire Counts, and an all-cavalry Khorne army. I've got a bunch of Knights Errant, Grail Knights, and Questing Knights, and in the front, Men-at-Arms, Polearms, Halberdiers, and the Battle Pilgrims. On my left flank, we've got Stan, who is playing as the Dark Elves. We've got a bunch of Dread Spears in the front lines, Harganeth Executioners, Black Guard of Nagaron, and of course, no Dark Elf army is ever complete without the Cold One Knights. They'll be the cavalry's force for the Dark Elves. We also have some Dark Rider crossbowmen in the back. And across the way from the Dark Elves, fittingly, we have the High Elves, who have a bunch of repeater bolt throwers firing into those Dread Spear shield walls, but I am unleashing my trebuchets on their very blobbed up formation, and those Eagle Claw bolt throwers are actually going to block some of those trebuchet shots. It would have done even more damage there, but I am going to start unleashing my flaming balls into those High Elf spears and archers up front. Looking at the Vampire Count's army, we've got Fell Bats. I'm not sure you guys have ever seen those. I think they're new in the 1.5 beta for Call of Warhammer beginning of the end times. And we have a bunch of Sylvanian archers. Those are the levies that are not undead. We have some Blood Dragon Knights that are dismounted. Crypt Horrors, those are also new in 1.5, I believe. A little bit goofy looking, but they are very scary. Drakenhof Guard. We've got Grave Guard Halberdiers. And of course, on the left flank, for the Vampire Counts, what makes them such a terrifying faction in this mod, the Knights of the Black Grail and the Blood Dragon Knights. Some of the best cavalry units in the entire game. They're going to be very scary to deal with. Now, talking about scary cavalry, Khorne has gone for an all-cavalry army here. He's got a bunch of Chaos Knights, Chosen Knights of Khorne, and this is a very interesting, very good tactic in 3v3s, honestly, especially in a Medieval 2 mod, when you can bring all cavalry and just focus on your cavalry micro. That is very powerful because you can do what he's doing here. He's going to shift away from the Dogs of War and send his army to go help someone else and 2v1 them. So the Dogs of War are going to be a little bit further behind. We've got the Cursed Company of Richter Kruger. You can see undead High Elves, undead Kislevites, and Dark Elves, and Chaos Warriors. Really cool looking unit. We've got the Brazanga's Besiegers. Those are crossbow units. Those are very good. Trebuchets and the Estalian Caballeros in the back, along with some Voland's Venators. So lots of good heavy cavalry on the field. Very balanced force from Gojir that should be able to take on pretty much any threat, but he'll have to get his ass moving. Otherwise, me or Stan are going to get double teamed over on this side. My trebuchets have started immolating that High Elf front line, but those stakes and those Eagle Claw bolt throwers are going to do a decent job, and I don't think this was intentional, of blocking the shots of my trebuchets. The Sisters of Avelorn and those High Elf archers reaping quite a terrible toll on that front line of the Dread Spear shield wall. So Stan is going to get his ass in high gear as well, trying to close into melee as soon as possible, because when you're playing against the High Elves, this is the most important thing. They will almost always outrange you. Ooh, really nice trebuchet shot there coming in. One of those can miss, just barely miss those silver helms, but they are almost always going to outrange you. So you want to close into melee as soon as possible and silence those archers, get your cavalry around the flanks, and hopefully overwhelm them. That's going to be difficult this game because Khorne is sending all of his cavalry over to this flank, and we have a cavalry engagement up on the mountainside as well. Cold One Knights charging directly into 2 units of Dragon Princes of Caledor. See how that engagement goes, but he's got some White Lion Chariots coming in to reinforce as well. Those are very good anti-infantry and anti-cav units. They can be a little bit squishy if they get tied down, but they will rip through cavalry very quickly. So the Dark Riders are coming in to reinforce as well. Stan's actually committing them to melee, which is pretty interesting. Those are actually a skirmisher cavalry unit. They do not want to be in melee with a White Lion Chariot or with Dragon Princes of Caledor. And the Dread Spears have clashed headlong into a bunch of Swordmasters of Hoeth and the Lothern Sea Guard. That shield wall should be able to hold for quite a while, and we'll see how that engagement goes. I will continue supporting with my trebuchet fire onto the High Elf left flank, and also I am sending some of my Questing Knights and my Grail Knights to reinforce. Really nice shot into the Swordmasters of Hoeth, who are going to lose about a third of their unit there in a single trebuchet shot. Absolutely brutal stuff right there. And now in the center, now this is interesting. The Fell Bats are actually a little bit, they're not a little bit, they're way OP at the moment. They only cost 200 gold, but they have the impact of a light cavalry charge. So they can do way more damage than they're supposed to do. That will get fixed by the time 1.5 leaves beta and goes into the full release. But they are a little bit too strong right now, especially when they only cost 200 gold. So those fell bats are going to be a problem in this game. We're going to have to be very careful and use our cavalry well to neutralize those threats. My Grail Knights are moving up the mountain now to reinforce the Dark Elves' left flank. And in the center, we've got some Black Ark Corsairs that have been run down by some Centaurs. And the Blood Dragon Knights and the Black Knights are charging up the center. They're going to hit the Grail Pilgrims right in the face and do a lot of damage there. So I'm going to have to get my Questing Knights or my Knights Errant in there. We got Dire Wolves charging in to the shield wall of the Pilgrims as well. Fellbats coming out. And I am mobilizing my cavalry for a decisive strike in the center of the Sylvanian line. I've got 2 units of Knights Errant getting ready to charge up the center, but we've got the Crypt Horrors, who I think have like 7 HP, crazy melee stats, moving up to reinforce the Black Knights and the Knights of the Black Grail. Centaurs, Black Ark Corsairs, Lothern Seaguard High Elf Spears, and some Grail Knights, all stuck in a crazy mosh pit right now. That will be a very important engagement. We'll see how that develops as the fight goes on, but lots of crazy units going on right now. Now we've got the Knights Errant, and we've got Raised Dead in the center of the Sylvanian line. That is so cool. That is probably the first time you guys have seen that. They have figured out a way to keep zombies hidden, and they will literally rise out of the ground until you get close enough, and they're going to block the charge of my Empire Archers. I mean, that's how crazy this mod is, that this is a 10-year-old game, and they are still blowing my mind with stuff like that. A literal Raised Dead in Medieval 2 Total War. Completely insane. Really enjoyed seeing that, and that was a great use of the zombies as well, who are going to block the charge of my Knights Errant. They're going to be able to continue through and probably get at those Sylvanian Levy Archers, but still, that was really awesome to see. We've got some Knights of the Realm charging in from the flank that will be stopped. We have to be very careful fighting around this side because the High Elf player had a bunch of stakes down. If you run your cavalry into a stake unit, they are going to get completely destroyed. My Grail Pilgrims are tying down the Blood Dragon Knights dismounted infantry version with those 2-handed Zweihanders, one of the best melee units in the entire mod. But I have my trebuchets firing, and in a withering, powerful charge coming in from my Knights Errant, just demolishing that entire Drakenhof Guard unit. That was beautiful, and that is how you want to use Bretonnian cavalry with the trebuchets coming in from the flank. Yeah, I'm going to burn a couple of my peasants. Who cares? I'm killing Blood Dragon Knights with the same holy fire, and look at them burn. This is such a good trade for me. The Grail Pilgrims are like 1,500 gold or something. The Blood Dragon Knights dismounted, I think, are 4,000 gold. And look at that shot. Oh, it is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. That's exactly how you want to use catapults as well. You tie down elite infantry, and then you murder it with your artillery. So that was perfect. The Dogs of War are moving up on this flank. We've got some Chilean pikemen who have taken quite a beating moving into the Sylvanian lines, and the Knights of the Black Grail are charging around. The Dark Elf General is going to go down to some Lothern Seaguard. Looked like maybe some Sisters of Avelorn firing in there as well. And we've got a tough melee grind going here with the Cursed Company of Richter Kruger and the Knights of the Black Grail. My charge up the center is routing a bunch of the Sylvanian Levy Archers, but Khorne's Centaurs are coming in to reinforce, and the Black Guard of Nagaron and the Black Ark Corsairs are still locked in combat with the High Elf Infantry. I'm going to try to turn that in my favor, or our team's favor, with a charge from the Knights of the Realm into the flank of those Swordmasters of Hoeth. And we've got more Centaurs and the Silverhounds swarming and murdering my Knights of the Realm. This was really bad. I'm going to charge my entire Grail Knight and a Knights Errant through a bunch of stakes. Obviously didn't mean to do it. I think I was chasing off some Sylvanian Levy, and the entire unit of Grail Knights is going to get butchered on the front of those stakes. You have to be so careful when there are stakes on the field, because your entire cavalry unit, doesn't matter how much HP they have, will die in droves if they run onto the front of them. That was really bad. Lost basically 2 full units of cavalry there. The Blood Knights are charging in to the Estalian Caballeros, and the Chilean pikemen coming in to reinforce. He's going to want to pull his general out of there real soon, or he might go down. And we've got a bunch of Voland Venators coming in to reinforce as well. Brazanga's Besiegers firing in from the flank. helping to support me in the center, and things are going very poorly for me in the center. I completely surrounded these Knights of the Black Grail, but they are far superior to even my questing Knights. They have multiple HP, they are murdering my cavalry in the center, and now with the help of Khorne and those Centaurs charging through and silencing my trebuchets. But there is reinforcements coming in from Gojira. He's going to help me relieve some of the pressure in the center, but I didn't have much of a central line, honestly. I brought mostly Cav, and I didn't commit much of it to the center either. So I'm definitely going to need his help to hold it down there. I think my artillery is probably already gone. You can see a lot of my Grail Knights are completely beaten up. I think this is my general unit, and the Vampire Count's general is actually going to go down as well. So one general down for each team so far, and just a handful of Grail Knights making their last stand against their undead cousins. Don't think they'll be able to do particularly well in that engagement. Sisters of Avelorn tied down by the Black Guard of Nagaron. They should not be tied down. They should be pulling away. Those Shadow Warriors should also not be getting tied down in combat. And it seems like Stan's doing a good job in the melee engagement on that side of the field. The Dark Elves seem to be pushing through the High Elves, and it has been complete butchery so far. Look at how many dead are already on the field, only halfway through the battle. We've got Illyrian Reavers and Dragon Princes of Calador swarming down the mountainside, Grail Knights chasing after some Centaurs, and the Marauder Horsemen over here overwhelming my catapult crews and the few Knights of the Realm that were tasked with protecting them. And they are going to go down, and Bretonnia will look for its vengeance here with a brutal charge coming in from the Grail Knights. Can they get their full charge bonus off? Don't have their lances out yet, and they're actually not going to drop their lances for some reason, but regardless, they are going to make it into melee, and that is where they thrive. They should be able to cut Marauder Horsemen down in droves. So Khorne's going to want to pull out of that engagement, or he might take way too many losses here, and I would expect he still has some ammunition on those throwing axes or Marauder Horseman javelin units. So we'll see if he manages to get the micro under control, get them out of combat, but so far those Grail Knights are doing a number on those Marauder Horsemen. We also got some Dark Shards firing in some support. Those are not going to be the best shots because they're firing up into the air instead of straight into the unit. Cryptors still giving me they're a huge headache in the center. I really have nothing to kill them. Even powerful heavy cavalry charges don't necessarily drop their HP enough. Voland's Venators and the Brasanga's Besiegers should be able to take out the few remnants of those Knights of the Black Grail. And over here, we've got more Cursed Company of Richter Kruger dealing with just a handful of Knights of the Black Grail. So it looks like the cavalry threat from the Vampire Counts has been neutralized, which is really important when you're up against the undead, because those are the most powerful units they field. And now Khorne's Knights are being committed, but they're fighting dangerously close to a lot of those stakes. And those are Black Guard of Nagaron, who have halberds and armor piercing, and that is not an engagement even the Chosen of Khorne want to be in when they are mounted on cavalry, because halberds do have a bonus first large. Now, Viper is doing a lot of balance changes, I believe, that should make it into the final version, and I believe halberds will be losing their bonus first cavalry. So that'll make them less of the hybrid OP unit they are right now, and they'll be more tasked towards dealing with just infantry. But for right now, 1.5 beta, halberds are very dangerous to cavalry, and Richard's going to have to be very careful with the way he's engaging with his Khorne Knights right now. But there is a lot of cavalry still on the field, and yeah, you can see some of the Khorne Knights dangerously close to those stakes. A few of them already butchered themselves on the front of those pointy ends. Silverhound's going to be very careful as well. They're pulling out, but I'm not sure he's going to notice how close these Khorne Knights are. They're dealing with some infantry right now, and every time they move forward, they're just getting thrown from their mounts onto the ground. And it's really hard to see those stakes when there are this many dead bodies on the field, so I don't fault him for that at all. In fact, as you already saw, I already butchered 2 of my own heavy cavalry units on a stake, so that can definitely happen, but you just gotta be really, really careful. Grail Knights coming in, and the Cryptors from the Vampire Counts charging in from the flank as well. Really good charge into those Dogs of War Huskarls, and the White Lion Chariot actually pulling through the middle of those Grail Knights. I'm gonna try to shut that down. Here comes the Khorne Knight charge into the front of some of the swordsmen. Delaying Pikeman coming in to reinforce, and again, he's going to want to get out of this engagement. Pike from the front, big no-no for heavy cavalry, so he's going to see it and pull away. And now Gojira is setting up on this hilltop to reinforce and fire in from the flank with those Brazanga's Besiegers. Me and Gojira each have some cavalry left. I think I only have one Grail Knight left at this point in the battle. Gojira has some Voland's Venators moving up that flank. So we'll be looking to link up with those Voland's Venators with my Grail Knights when and if at all possible. And together, we could probably get some nice cavalry strikes in. So I'm going to pull out of this engagement in the center. I really can't do much about those Cryptors. I don't want to risk losing a Grail Knight just to kill them. We can send in some crap infantry and grind them down a little bit more, and then get some kind of charge into the Cryptors. That would probably be a better way of dealing with them. Khorne Knights up the center into the middle of some Talayan pikemen, losing a lot of his cavalry on that charge, but he actually did quite a bit of damage to the pikemen as well. That was kind of impressive considering he charged into the pike wall from the front. Still killed a lot of those pikemen, but I guess that's expected from Khorne champion units. So my Grail Knights moving out to the flank here. I really wanted to kill that White Lion Chariot. It's probably taken quite a beating so far, but it can do a lot of damage to infantry. Wanted to silence it here. So he's going to lose micro on it as he's focusing on another part of the battle, and I will get a nice charge into his rear and bring down that weapon of war. Very important engagement there, and here come my Grail Knights to deal with some of the Skullcrushers of Khorne. Those are the Warriors of Chaos variant of the Blood Crushers, and that is the general unit for the Warriors of Chaos here. He's going to pull out of the melee, but here Gojira and I are going to link up, and our cavalry will start doing some very important strikes. Managed to do a lot of damage to those Skullcrushers of Khorne before they were able to disengage. And I've said it before, these are the kind of battles that I always love, when you've only got a few remnants of units from each player, and you're all trying to combine and coordinate strikes together. I've only got one Grail Knight left on the field, but that one cavalry unit is going to be so much fun to micro. Same with the High Elf player. He's only got that Silver Helm unit left, but he's going to use it very well to get good charges into the flanks of these crossbow units. And there's just so much action going on, so much death and destruction and Warhammer goodness on the field. It's been an amazing battle so far, so much going on at once, and Gojira and my cavalry are just making sure some of these rounding units don't come back. But we have to focus on the main line, where his Brazanga's besiegers are beset on all sides by these very torn up units of cavalry, but that's the general's unit, the High Elf general, and his Silver Helms. Those cavalry charges are brutal. We need to silence those Silver Helms before they can do too much more damage to us. There are even some more champion Knights of Khorne going into melee, destroying those crossbow units. Grail Knights coming in, and I am going to get a nice rear charge into the back of these chosen Knights of Khorne. Oh, that was beautiful. Knights, lances flashing, Knights charging in from the rear and just butchering the chosen of Khorne, sending them to an early grave, and that is how you use heavy cavalry. Perfect hammer and anvil into the back of those chosen Knights, and then another perfect one from the Voland's Venators into the back of those Graveguard Halberdiers, pinned between the crossbows and the heavy cavalry. And with those strikes, another one coming in here to the Blood Knights, we should be able to pretty much take the field. Game's not completely over at this point, but we have taken off most of their killing power off the field. The General of Khorne charging in now with the Skullcrushers. That is literally the one unit I am most excited for in Total War Warhammer, are the Skullcrushers of Khorne. I think they're one of the most iconic units in all of Warhammer Fantasy. When I think of the Warriors of Chaos, who are the main threat to the world, when I think of Chaos in general, the first thing I think of is a Chaos Warrior mounted on the back of a Juggernaut in full red plate, and they just look so awesome. I think, again, Warriors of Chaos are not my favorite faction in Warhammer Fantasy by any means. They are an amazing faction, but the Skullcrushers are just so cool. Let me know what you guys think your most favorite unit in all of Warhammer Fantasy is, what you're most excited for in terms of a unit in the Total War Warhammer trilogy. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say on that topic, but yeah, it's definitely Skullcrushers of Khorne for me, even though High Elves and Skaven and a few other races are certainly higher on my list than Warriors of Chaos. They're just so cool looking. Grail Knights coming in from the flank, and we are going to try to finally kill off that Chosen of Khorne. Try to kill that general before this is over, but the Silverhelm general is also still alive. Got him. Oh, the Khorne general finally going to go down here to some Grail Knights and the Dread Spears, and Knights of the Black Grail finally going to be eliminated as well. So the only thing left on the field are the Silverhelms. I think there are two of them, and yeah, a couple, just a handful of chosen Knights of Khorne, who should go down very quickly when surrounded by a bunch of Grail Knights. Yeah, he's going to go down And that will just leave the High Elf General and his bodyguard unit. I think there are only 2 of them left here, charging into Brazanga's besiegers, and we will see the last stand of the High Elf General. Just speed it up a little bit. Another charge coming in, just demolishing this crossbow unit. Definitely a brave and fitting end for the Azure General. But the Dark Riders coming in now. Besiegers getting ready to fire as well. He should be able to get one more charge in before the Grail Knights and everything completely overwhelm him. And look at the battlefield. Just pockets of dead everywhere you look. It's been a glorious affair. Just in a brutal battle. This is why I still play Call of Warhammer beginning of the end times. Because when you can get battles like this, it makes all the occasional crash issues, and even the fact that it's a decade-old game, it makes it all worth it. It's just so much fun to get 3v3 or 4v4 battles in Medieval 2 where the map actually expands and can better accommodate this many troops on the field. Just makes for some really cinematic and awesome battles. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, because I certainly enjoyed playing it. Just completely awesome Warhammer battle. So, I had 1,200 kills. The Dark Elves had 1,600, quite a lot. And Gojira, his opponent, ran to the other side of the field, so he didn't get quite as many, but he supported us well, got his cavalry in there. Sippy Sapo, 2,200 kills with the vampire counts. Richard had a bit of trouble with his Khorne cavalry build, and Plebis Maximus did relatively well against the Dark Elves. So the kills for my units, Grail Knights did okay, although I think my General's bodyguard ran straight through those stakes. Definitely not to play with your cavalry. Try to avoid that if you're using a heavy cavalry build. And then we had some questing knights do pretty well for me, Knights Errant, and my peasants didn't do that well, but they managed to hold the line while my trebuchets destroyed the elites. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all next time.